Let's go ahead and jump into Luke chapter 24. And, maybe you've heard this story before, maybe you haven't heard this story before, but that's besides the point. I pray that as we read that you would be encouraged, that you would be sensitive to the heart of God towards you in this time. Okay, so we're going to start in verse 13. We're actually not going to read all of it. I'm going to just kind of give you an overview, but I will start at the beginning. But it's just a long section. So, and behold, two of the disciples, were going that very day to a village named Emmaus, which was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. So, if you were to walk 7 miles, not sure if you've ever walked 7 miles yourself, but remember, during this time, like 2,000 years ago, there were no cars, there were no planes, there were no taxis or Ubers or motorcycles or even bikes. So you walked everywhere. And so 7 miles can take about 2.5 hours or so, give or take. And that, I think the 2.5 hours is probably if you don't even stop. And people in those days, they were used to walking. So 2.5 hours of walking, it's just time of fellowship and getting to know each other and building relationships. And with that said, we live such a fast-paced life that we think about walking for 2.5 hours. What could I have done with that time? But in this time of 2.5 hours that they walked on the road to Emmaus, there came a man behind them who overheard them and joined in the conversation. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and share the story. So we have these 2 disciples that followed Jesus in the time of his ministry. And Jesus, at this time, he had died on the cross, was nailed to the cross, and died on the cross, and was buried in the grave. And it was that very morning that the ladies went to go to the tomb to find the body of Jesus, and Jesus had resurrected. He had raised from the dead. Isn't that so powerful? Because death could not hold him. The grave could not hold him. And that's another whole story. But these men, they heard this story that Jesus wasn't in the tomb when the ladies went to go see him. And so they're walking on the road, and this man comes up, and he says, "Hey, so what are you guys talking about?" And he's like, these guys are saying, "Were you not in town this weekend? Do you not know what has just happened? Are you unaware? Are you the only stranger?" And so he goes, "Well, what are you talking about?" He specifically says, "What are these words that you are exchanging with one another as you are walking?" And so they say, "Are you the only one that has no idea what's going on? Are you the only visitor?" And Jesus says, "Well, what things are going on?" So they begin to explain that Jesus, the prophet who has done mighty wonders and miracles, has died on the cross. But then when the ladies went to the tomb earlier that morning, he wasn't there to be found. And so as they continue to walk, they continue to talk, and Jesus is just listening and asking some questions. And then he says to them, "O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken, was it not necessary for the Christ to suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them the things concerning himself in all the scriptures. So imagine Jesus walking with these disciples. They did not recognize him. But you want to know why? Because their eyes were not able to see. He didn't reveal himself yet. I believe he wanted to see where their faith was at. Because he trained these men, his disciples, the 12 for sure, and then the 70 and then the thousands. He taught them kingdom principles. He taught them truth after truth about the kingdom. And then he revealed the heart of the Father and the love of the Father, the thousands. And so these men who knew his ministry, who sat under his teaching, they did not recognize him until something happens. So like I said, it takes about 2.5 hours to walk 7 miles. And so they finally have made it to Emmaus, the village, and Jesus kind of pretended that he was going to continue on, but these men invited Jesus into their home to have a meal and to rest. So what happens is after Jesus had explained all of the prophecies in the Old Testament that pointed to himself, and they sat down at the table and they broke bread and he blessed it, then their eyes were open. What does that tell you? How important and beautiful fellowship is. The talking, but also how powerful food is. The breaking of bread. How often did Jesus break the bread and bless it? How many times did he multiply the food when there was literally no food to feed the thousands? He broke the bread and he blessed it and gave thanks to the Father, and then it multiplied. And so at that time, they recognized what Jesus was doing because they saw him do it before, and then their eyes were opened. Isn't that so powerful? And so I want to just quickly encourage you in this season. I don't know what kind of journey you are on, but we are all on a road to Emmaus. We are all on a journey somewhere, and Jesus is right there along with us, but we might not always recognize him. But we are all on a journey. We are all on the road to Emmaus. And that journey is going to look a bit different for you than it does for me. You might be at a crossroad saying, Lord, which direction am I supposed to go? Or you might be plowing into a new season and you're like, Lord, how in the world do I do this? Or you might be leading a group of people into something new and you're needing wisdom, direction, and counsel on how to lead these people where the Lord would have you to go. Or maybe it's a season of rest and it's a time of evaluation of where have I been, and just resting and saying, thank you, Lord, for what you've done. Thank you, Lord, for what you've allowed me to be a part of. Maybe it's a season of the road has ended and it's time to be done. And that's part of a journey too. All of us are on some kind of journey. All of us are going somewhere, but Jesus, he is always right there with you. Because he is Emmanuel, God with us. Emmanuel, God with you. And in this Christmas time, over the next couple weeks as we end this year of 2021, I know it's been a challenging year for you, it's been a challenging year for us, but we do know that God, his word is true and it's forever established under heaven, and his word does not change. He is Emmanuel, God with you and God with me. And he is walking with you through the valley, if you're in a valley, and he's with you on top of that mountain. And you know what? There may be times where you can't see him and you're saying, where are you in this, God? Where is that answer that I'm believing you for? Where is the breakthrough that I'm believing you for? Where is the victory, God? But Jesus says that this is the victory that overcomes the world, even my faith. But Jesus is your victory. He's the one who overcame. He's the one that overcame. And so because he overcame, you can overcome too. So whatever situation you are in right now, I can tell you that the eyes of your heart will be open to see, in fact, that he has never left you. He hasn't abandoned you, that he is for you. Even when others seem like they're against you, he is for you. Emmanuel, God with you, God with us. So I pray that as you maybe read a bit more by yourself in Luke 24 about this story of the road to Emmaus, as these men walked this road, walked this journey, they didn't know that it was Jesus, the Christ, that was walking with them. But he revealed himself through asking questions. And you know, sometimes God is going to ask you questions to reveal something to you and about you. He wants you to know the deep things. He wants you to seek him out. He wants to take you out to the deep. He wants to take you further. He wants to take you deeper still. And I pray that that is a hunger that you have within you, that you would continue to know him more, and that even when you can't see him, even when you can't feel him, that you would trust him because you know his character. He cannot fail you, and he will never abandon you. So I pray that he gives you wisdom. I pray that he gives you instruction. And you know what? If you're in a season of weeping and sorrow and loss, he's right there with you. He is the healer of the brokenhearted. He restores that which has been torn apart. He's the master rebuilder, but he's weeping with you. You're not alone. And you know what? When you're rejoicing about something, he's right there to rejoice with you. He's going before you. He surrounds you, and he's also your rear guard behind you. So I pray that the Lord would minister to you in this season, whatever road you might be on, whatever journey you personally are on right now, that you would encounter the goodness of the Lord, that you would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So, sending you love and blessings from Kurdistan, Northern Iraq, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.